So, basis our research on your video interviews and articles, one thing is quite evident that you lay a lot of stress on the humane side of the solutions you build. What's your thought process on this, and how has this panned out? Any use case study would help on explaining this process.
Human technology is more important than technology by itself. Okay. If you do not get the people to be part of that technology, it's never going to work.
True.
So bringing the human touch, okay, understanding and making it their idea of innovation is very important in today's day and age, because we are talking about the Gen Z, the Gen Y, the millenniums. Everybody has an idea. And I look at it by saying that it's good for you to have an idea. There's nothing called a stupid idea. But having no idea is a bad idea. Okay. So humanizing technology is very important in order to understand how a person works. Humans are creatures of practice. Okay. What they do yesterday is what they will do today. So if you teach them the wrong things, they're going to continue doing the wrong things. So the technology has to provide the right level of interface, but at the time the right level of nudges. So when you nudge them, okay, by saying you're selling this product to a customer, it's telling us, because we do something called water testing. So I'll give you that example as a use case. When we tell them that, look, this person in this building, you can only sell these 3 products to them. They are right fit for them. Okay? These are the price bands. Okay? When we do that, you're doing right selling. You're actually selling it right for the customer for the long run. Because you're talking about health and hygiene. You're talking about water. Water is, it's the essence of life. It's drunk by every single person. Nobody can live without water. So if you're giving them the wrong solution, it can impact health. So therefore, right selling with the nudges, that's where we humanize their technology. Okay, this is one of the use cases, okay, which we do. And this is something which we follow a lot to ensure that catering for our employees plus catering for our consumers and customers is very important for us.
Right. I think you're making them a part of the process and not alienating them or to follow.
It is not being pushed.
Right.
There's a pull from them. Okay. So we know the success of something which we launch with them on the field when there's a pull from the field. It's like saying, why have you given it to that person but not to me? I would also like to earn more, because it's incentivized.
True.
All right. So that pull, once the pull becomes a tsunami, you know that you don't have to do anything after that.
And that leads to a very positive culture as well.
Exactly. A culture of inclusiveness.
Exactly. So your one action has created so many positive impacts.
Correct.
So what is your take on user behavior analytics, and what is the need and how does it help?
The world believes today in passwords. Everything has a password. Okay. There is a thought process of moving into a password-less society. Because how many passwords can you remember?
Absolutely.
Right?
I have a Word document with a lot of passwords and with 4 pages.
And you're saving that on your computer.
On my computer. True.
Without a password to protect it.
True.
So it's a password which protects a password. Okay. User behavior analytics goes hand in hand with a password-less environment. Now, easier said than done. But as we get into identity management systems, which is more user behavior analytics led, again I'll say a user is a creature of habit. When they do things, how they log on, how they open up documents, what words do they utilize, you'll find them more or less synonymous to what they do daily. The user behavior analytics provides the essence to say that if something is going wrong, you'll find the deviations happening. That's when you start coming to understand that actually somebody is actually there in the system dictating the user's behavior. So internally, you start bringing in a cybersecurity methodology to say if the behavior is actually walking down this line, but we find that yesterday he was deviating left, right, then you know that something is happening on their desktop or laptop or iPad or whatever it is, or mobile, okay, that they are deviating from the normal. It creates an alert, okay, and that will safeguard the company, safeguard the individual, okay, from these cyber threat vectors. So identity management is one thing, okay. What is the maximum you can do? Okay, I guess scan the retina of your eye. Is that available? Yeah, it's available. Is it costly? Absolutely. Okay, but as we go password-less environments, user behavior analytics will have to become very, very important, because it provides a trend to safeguard the user and the company.
Sure.
Okay, so that's the way I think the world is moving towards on UAM.
Sure. So do you think it's going to be a next big thing in the industry?
I definitely think it will become, because let's take an example. You have, if you work with one bank, which is your primary bank, and if you have a demat account and you have an insurance policy, and if you have mutual funds, how many passwords do you want to remember which are so complex enough you will never remember that? So either you'll write it down and lose it, or you will put it on a folder in a file on a PC and assume that nobody's going to get it.
True. Or keep one password for everything.
Or keep one password for everything and keep changing it every 90 days.
Right.
Okay. To say that India 123 or 123 at the rate of India, and people do all of this. Every person does that.
True.
Password-less environments provide that kind of emphasis to say it's about your behavior which becomes your password. Okay, very easily said, very difficult to do.
Absolutely.
Okay, what happens if a human changes their behavior?
True.
But it's that 80-20 rule. 80% of the time they don't. It's that 20% of the time they do. But if you capture their behavioral analytics, you will always find a commonality which becomes your password.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Now, privilege access management is something that goes hand in hand with UBA. How critical is it to employ PAM solutions for an organization?
I would say if you're in the fintech industry or the banking industry or the BFSI, absolutely 100%. Okay, you miss that 1% or the 0.5%, you will be in the newspapers the next day.
And that's the worst thing that could happen to a bank. That's the worst thing
which can happen specifically for a listed company.
True.
Right? But privilege access management is the way to go forward. Unfortunately, it's expensive. So you have to juggle and balance between where you are putting your privilege access management. Okay, is it for the frontline people or for the back-end systems? It has to be frontline. Okay, and I think biting that bullet and plugging it in is more important than accepting that nothing will happen to me, and then it happens. A lot of companies don't do that today. Okay, even for us, we are in the process of getting it done, right? After a lot of understanding of why do we need it. But I think it's again the same thing: protect the company, protect the people, protect the customers. So privilege access management is going to take a step at a time. It is going to elevate itself, I think, in the coming years.
Absolutely. Now, a host of IT standards such as PCI SS, HIPAA, ISO 27. I mean, the list can go on. There are so many regulations, multi-factor authentication, all these kind of things. Why is there so much of weightage given on PAM by these standards?
Uh, the fact of the matter is that every company indicates, let me give an example of any cloud, public cloud. They will have these standards listed all over. That's not just to say that they are following it. Yes, they are following it, but it's also to protect them. Okay, they protect the brand, protect the image. These standards are necessary in order for people to understand. The awareness is that if you follow these standards, the likelihood of you getting attacked will be lesser. Okay. Following these standards, it's like a simple thing like the length of the password and the complexity of the password. Okay. We talk about use 12 characters, alphanumeric in nature, a capital letter, and a numeric, special characters. Okay. But what do people do? They take a character, every 90 days they will reverse it around. All right. So privilege access management does provide us a lot more detail. Okay. And I think the management of the privileges will have to be curtailed to what you want to do. There are certain things where, we do things without realizing the impact. So HR could be, for example, dealing with the people side of it. Payroll may be a finance function.
Sure.
Okay. But the question is, HR needs that information.
Absolutely.
So when privileges are provided, it is retrospective across the board. And that's wrong. You have to give it as they require it, not retrospective just because HR and finance have to work together.
What's the downside of it?
Data being open to people who should not be looking at the data, right? And that becomes extremely sensitive when things like HR data, okay, right? Payroll data, okay, information regarding your life, okay, comes out in the open. And that's
So zero trust.
You have to have zero trust, okay, right? Provided only on need basis, okay? Allow by exceptions, that's what we call it.
Correct. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing about PAM and UBA. I think that's, like you mentioned, the next big things happening in the industry.